Hello there. In this video, I'm looking at Shatterpoint combat stances. Hello AOS fans, Robin here. Yes, I'm back, slightly delayed this week I think, mostly because UK teachers have been on strike, which means I've had my hands full juggling the kids. I say juggling, I mean shouting at. But yeah, so they've been at home, so I haven't been able to write my little précis on my Shatterpoint blog, neither have I been able to make this video. But here I am making this video now, all very exciting. So we got two transmissions this week, we got one which we're going to look at the combat stance card, and we had another which I think is going to be the first of a regular series. Atomic Mass Games do a regular series for Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is called From Panel to Play, and I think we're going to get a regular series for Shatterpoint called Data Bank Download, and this week it featured Anakin Skywalker, and it gives you the whole kind of précis of a single model and what they can do and can't do on the battlefield. So I'll have a little look at the main transmission first, and not the databank download first. And it started with the dice. Now we've seen the dice, we know they've got different symbols on them, we know that the attack dice are D8s, and we know that the defense dice are D6s, and we kind of got codified what the symbols on the dice are going to be. So we've seen that there's going to be critical hits, there's something called expertise, and there's a strike and there's a failure for the attack dice, and then for the defense dice there's blocks, and then there's defense expertise, and there's failures. So you haven't got any kind of critical blocks or anything like that on the defense dice. They didn't tell us what the numbers were going to be on the dice. Maybe for the attack dice we might get 2 failures, 3 strikes, a couple of expertise and a critical. Is that up to 8? I don't know, but I'm not sure. But I suppose it depends on how quickly they want their combat to go and how exciting they want to be. I feel like they might bend away from the failures, but we'll see. We'll see when it comes. We'll get in, but then maybe it's been spoiled in an unboxing somewhere that I haven't seen. And again, similarly, the defense dice, we don't know what we're going to get. I would probably guess there might be 2 defense expertise, 3 blocks and a failure maybe. We'll see. So the attacker will roll a fistful of D8s, and it will be a fistful because we've seen, like Ahsoka Tano, we've seen her attack, it will have 7 D8s to roll, and then the defender will roll their defense dice, and then you compare the roll. So we're going to be comparing strikes, successes against blocks, defense successes, I guess. So the critical successes, if you get a critical success, it can't be blocked by a block. Strikes can be blocked by a block, and the expertise will trigger different things depending on the combat stance card you're using. So you know, obviously the more dice you roll, the more chance you've got of getting successes. And so you add it up, you sort of mark off the strikes against the blocks, and I guess probably the attacker will end up generally with more successes than the defender. So for any number of successes, you then count across the combat tree. Remember we saw the combat tree with the little square lozenges. You count across those the number of successes you had, and each one you do the thing that it says in it. These are all given by a number of symbols, and they haven't really said what they are. They've given some hints to what a couple of them are, but each one will do different things. One thing I did get wrong in the last video, I didn't actually try to talk very much about the combat, but one of the things I did talk about I got wrong. The thing at the bottom of the card is not hits or anything, it's basically the expertise chart. So that's going to refer to the number of expertise rolls you got in your dice roll. So if we flash up Ahsoka's card, you can see when she's attacking, which is the left hand side, she's got lightsabers. That's the number of expertise, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 plus down the side, and that turns into different things depending on what she got. So if she rolled a 1 to 2, she gets 2 strikes. Now those strikes could be knocked out if the defender had some blocks, but if she got 3 to 4 expertise rolls, which is pretty high, but if she got 3 to 4, she would actually get 2 criticals, and if she got 5 plus, then she get 3 criticals. So that potentially is very strong. On the defensive side, you can see there she's got 5 defense dice, the square dice. I totally didn't realise that these triangles and squares were the dice faces. So the attack dice are D8s, and the triangles are the triangle side of octahedral, and the squares are the blue defense dice. It's kind of really obvious now, but I totally didn't notice that when I was first looking at the cards. It took me a little while for the penny to drop. So let's go back to the defense. So the defense thing is the next thing is acrobatics. So you can see if she gets 1 or 2 expertise, then she gets, I think that's an additional block, and then I think that means it turns one of the attacker's criticals into a not critical, into a strike, and then it goes up and up and up. For 3 and 4 and 5, they have 2 blocks, and then they both have the convert the critical into a not critical into a strike, and then the 3 to 4 has a little, I think that's a jump, so maybe she can make a jump, and then 5 has a jump, and this little symbol, which I think looks like a squashed mouse, but actually something to do with healing. I don't quite know how it works, but they refer to it in the Anakin Skywalker card as his ability to be able to do healing. So that is some sort of healing mechanic for maybe herself or possibly for nearby units as well. Herself kind of makes more sense to me, but I guess we will see. So as I said, depending on how many successes you roll, you then go along your combat tree. Looking at Ahsoka's combat tree, again, I don't know what all these symbols do. I think these explosions, because of the proliferation of these little explosion symbols across the cards, I think this is damage. So especially if you got 3 successes, you do like 2 damage, then you do 1 damage, and then another one with a broken gun, which is interesting. Maybe that's disarm, maybe that's some sort of can't be attacked back, or they lose something, I'm not sure. And then three damage, which is pretty cool. And then you get a tree, and you can then choose which branch you take. If you have 4 successes, you'd have to choose which branch you went down. Obviously 5, you go all the way to the end. Got a couple of other things there. We've got these symbols that look like a little bit like blood. Maybe that's some sort of like bleed condition, like a continuing depletion of your wounds after you've taken one of those. We've got one which is a broken arrow, which perhaps means that your opponent can't move, I'm not sure. And the other one, which I think they refer to, is a shove. So you can use a little shove tool, so you can basically move the person you're fighting 1 inch. She can't shove people very high with this combat stance. Remember, the combat stances are 2-sided. Maybe the other side will. We'll see Anakin in a minute. He's got quite the ability to do quite a lot of shoving, which I guess is going to be really good for getting people away from other units and also getting people away from objectives. So we'll be interested to see what other stance cards are available and out there, and if there are any more symbols and exactly what they do. We haven't had them defined exactly what they do, so it'll be interesting to see if there'll be a future transmission which will explain what they all do. So we're starting to see a little bit about how the design philosophy of the game is going to work. This is a direct quote, but it says, each step of the tree is a different move made by a unit to try and get the upper hand. The various fighters' methods distill down to different effects: damage, pushing your opponent away, or following them in with a flurry of blows, activating abilities from your stat card, or applying powerful conditions. It gives the sense of varied tactics and fighting styles each unit uses. It'll be interesting to see if that actually translates on the table. Will Schick, in his Crabak interview, mentioned that each character's personality is part of their fighting style in Star Wars, and I could sort of see what he means. It isn't something I particularly picked up or focused on. It'll be interesting to see whether that translates into the tabletop, or whether each fighter basically ends up with, like, well, this is the best moveset in pretty much all situations, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm a little bit worried that there's going to be too much sandwiched in there when they talk about things like damage, that's fine, pushing your opponents away, but then activating abilities from a stat card or applying powerful conditions. Are you going to start having too many conditions and too many abilities? And for I've said before, my aging brain, whether that's going to be too much. I'm really hoping not, and I'm really hoping that the combat is as fluid and dynamic as Will and the team hope it will be. I'm really looking forward to seeing it in action. I know it's not that long now till Adepticon, and some people will be seeing it in action. Sadly, I won't be there, it's too far. So that was kind of it for the combat stance transmission, and let's have a quick little look at what they talked about Anakin Skywalker. Again, in that Crabak interview, Will Schick mentioned that Anakin at 7 squad points is one of the strongest characters in the game, one of the strongest primary units in the game. If you remember, the primary, you have to have one primary unit per squad, and that tells you how many points you can spend on other people, other units in that squad. And the lower that is, the better the Jedi, because you've got less to spend to balance it out. So he's really strong with only 7 points. And the suggestion is, for that strength, you're going to get a lot of tricks and tactics to use to try and sort of make up for the fact that your rest of your forces aren't going to be as good. So we had last week's transmission was all about the Jedi ability, so we knew he could deflect and he could hit damage back to opponents when they're shooting at him. He's got no range attack, so you're going to be trying to chase down your enemies as fast as you can, and he's got a force jump to help him with that. Okay, but what's Anakin going to do when he actually does chase you down? He's just force jumped in to do. What's he going to do then? He's going to fight you. He's got 2 combat stances, one on either side of the card. They've got names. I don't know enough about the lore to know whether these are things that have kind of been invented for the game or whether they're in some of the books or TV programs. I don't remember. He's got a Form V Gem So and Form V Shine. And they're different things. One's more offensive and one's more attacking. So if you look directly at them, literally the Gem So one has 8 attack dice, whereas the Xian one only has 7 attack dice on his lightsabers. Still doesn't have any ranged weapon at all. If you look at the combat tree going across from the beginning, he's got of the VGM So he's got 5 damage, or 7 damage actually off the bat with the first 3 hits. And then you've got this bleed condition, and then it splits, and then you've got more damage after that. A couple of other conditions. I'm not sure what the last one is. Maybe that's can move in any direction at the end. I'm not really sure what the very last one is on that flow chart. And also, if we look at his expertise chart, it's basically got crits. So one expertise is 1 crit. 2 to 3 is 2 crits, and 4+ is 3 crits. So you've got lots and lots of crits. And in the defensive form, he's only got a kind of very small number of things. Only got 1 to 2 and 3+. And basically, it's like Ahsoka's. It's extra blocks and a reduction from a crit to a strike for the opponent. So not very defensive there. More offensive, looking at doing lots of damage. By contrast, if we look at the Form V Shine version, he's got some damage off the top, and then they've got this one, which I think is the shove, the dotted arrow. He mentioned he had lots of opportunities to shove. He's actually got 4 with that kind of hashed arrow thing. So there's 4 options to shove people. This is where they mentioned that he's got some access to healing, so that kind of, it does look a bit like a heart, I suppose, or maybe just somebody flattened out, like I say, like a squash mouse. But he's got access to, there's 2 squares with it on, with 3 symbols on for healing, and but then there's still a fair amount of damage in there. But if you look at the expertise rolls, only 1 option at 4+ to get a single extra crit, the rest just extra strikes. But in the defensive form, he's got a lot more blocks than he did do in the alternative form. So I think basically looking at, depending on what the situation is, if you want to shove people away from objectives or just break up your opponent's positions, the Form V Shine looks really good. But if you want the other one, if you just want to kill people, then the other one does look a little bit better. So the transmission finished with a final look at Anakin's abilities, and they did cover these last time, but this kind of showed you a little bit how some of the synergies are going to work. It describes the I'm going to end this as an exceptionally powerful ability with a force cost to match that power, because I think it has a force cost of 2, remember. But basically, it gives you an extra attack. So the attack does, after this unit makes a combat action, it may use this ability. Once one character in this unit, effectively Anakin, may make an attack targeting one of the same enemy characteristics with a range and line of sight. So basically, you can do it again. So it's basically a free attack, and it did mention that this sort of free attack with a full dice pool is rare in the game. So that's obviously powerful for Anakin. Doubled up with that, he's got his always on. I can't remember what term they use for the abilities that are always on, but there's one at the bottom. This is where it's like innate or something like that. This is where the fun begins. It's always working, and it ties really nicely in with that, because you're basically doing extra attacks, and then if you attack a primary or secondary unit, then you move that struggle token closer to your victory. So if you can get some attacks off, basically, do an attack, wound a primary, secondary unit, get the struggle token 1 more closer to you, do it again, get the struggle token back closer to you 1 more step again. So you're kind of already swinging it over in your direction. Not only that, if you were attacking and wounded an enemy primary unit, all your allied Galactic Republic characters may heal. They said it was healing, they referred to it as healing, and that's where I learned the little symbol was. So you've got some possibility of healing in there as well, all tying in with doing this combat damage, and kind of using Anakin as the spearhead of your fight, because he can basically keep churning out the damage. Be interesting to see where it goes. It's some really tantalising stuff in there. Looking forward to seeing some more of these data download pieces to see about. I'd like to see more again in that. I keep talking about it, but if you haven't seen it, check out the Crabbuck interview with Will Schick. It's really good. But in there, they talk about Maul being an absolute beast in combat. I'd also like to see how some of the clones and the Mandalorians fight. The troops. How are they going to do? The Jedi are interesting, but it'd be interesting to see how the less kind of flamboyant characters are going to run in the game too. So still really excited, still a little bit hesitant because I'm still a little bit worried about. There's two things I'm worried about. One about it just being too complicated for me because we played Eternal Champions core set, and again the core rules are great, but then the added complexity. Then I just started to think, well, it's just a little bit too much. We've only played that once though, so that's not a review of that. We're going to play it again. And I always find it's the add-on twiddly bits where I start to get lost. So hopefully the add-on twiddly bits here will be nice and intuitive and I won't get lost. And then I'm also concerned that, and it's always a concern with games, they try and bring in nuance and subtlety and kind of a more narrative styles, but I'm hoping that it balances nicely. You don't always sort of get led, well actually, I'm hoping I don't get led to sort of this is the best thing to do each time with this character, which will be a shame, but it's a very hard thing to avoid. So fingers crossed they've done it. Another team have put a lot of effort in, so hopefully they will have done. And I guess we'll find out as the game becomes more and more available and more people play. It's just like a really long time till June, and I really can't wait. I've just got a horrible feeling it's going to arrive at a time that's totally inconvenient, but we'll see. Busy, family life, always really busy. No time is convenient really, but I want to get painting, want to get playing, want to get some games on the table with Pete, and hopefully bring them to you, and hopefully you enjoy them. And internet stardom beckons, or something like that anyway. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm enjoying making these videos. It's good fun. Please like and subscribe if you did enjoy it, and we'll see you soon somewhere on the Agents of Sigmar. Bye for now.